And I use that as an analogy very basically, simply because the whole of the 4-year period, or say 2-year leading up to the election, how many things didn't the opposition put forward at IPAC, where IPAC was a consensus building body, was now transformed into a voting organization where political parties will now vote. And all of a sudden, political parties, some of whose names I have never heard or seen before, were now at the table again, voting on issues which will not affect them in any way because they didn't even go into the election. That is the problem with IPAC. IPAC is supposed to be a consensus building body, not necessarily a voting. In the past, when IPAC used to meet, they would debate issues to the point of consensus. Afarajan in his time, if there was no consensus, he would simply say, put it on the back burner, we'll come back to it. This is how, and most of the time, he always tended to defer to the opposition. Why? Because the government had the power and you didn't want to see that they were being bullied because of the history of the way in which IPAC was created. IPAC was created because of the boycott of the MPP
in the parliamentary election.
So if Parliament was going to be left as a body to deal with the recommendations for an election, it gave an unfair advantage to the government in power at the time. IPAC was created as a body to allow the MPP to come onto the table. And they brought in a whole raft of reforms, which from opaque ballot boxes to transparent, from black and no photo ID cards to photo ID cards, from photo ID cards to black and whites to color.
Biometric.
Biometric was also, all these reforms were by the MPP in opposition because there was always a deferment and a push by the Electoral Commissioner to the government in power at the time to say, look, listen, these are really, let's listen to the ideas. We want to move up. Don't look at it on a partisan basis. Is it good? What they're asking for, is it worthwhile? And if it is, let's go, because then it gives, they cannot complain tomorrow if they lose and if you win.
So, Mr. Segbefia, pardon my interjection.